I was listening to the radio the other day and I heard a story about a little boy in Indiana who's 3 years old, and he is undergoing surgery because his 1 year old sister needs a bone marrow transplant. And as I was listening to the radio and hearing their story, I couldn't help but think that there has to be a better way for this little girl to get better and to get the transplant that she needs without her little brother also having to endure the risks of surgery and for their family to have to deal with all of that and the stress that could come with that. And there is a better way for this little girl to get a transplant, and it would be very helpful, if it could be done through stem cells. And stem cell research is really important and very worthwhile to us as a society. So we always hear about stem cell research and it's controversial, and what exactly is it? And so I wanted to know, what is a stem cell? And the technical term for a stem cell is an undifferentiated cell of a multicellular organism that is capable of giving rise to indefinitely more cells of the same type and from which certain other kinds of cells arise by differentiation, which is a mouthful. So basically, stem cells are cells that are very basic, and they can grow into something bigger and better, and they can be different types of cells. It doesn't limit them. So stem cells can do a multiple of things. They can test for new drugs, and they can see what is safe and what is effective, because they can become different types of cells. It can be, liver cells, it can, different organ cells, bone, heart, muscle. They can be a variety of things. Another thing that they can do is generate healthy cells, and that these can replace the diseased cells, and they can be created into healthier cells to make new tissues for the different organs or muscles. And they can increase our understanding of how diseases work, because we can see how the different diseases could affect these cells. So there are different types of stem cells. There are embryonic stem cells, which are usually taken from an embryo when it's about 3 to 5 days old. And typically at this point, the embryo will have about 150 cells. And these embryonic stem cells, this is really what's causing controversy with stem cell research. And the actual embryonic stem cells are not being taken from an actual baby inside a woman's uterus. It's actually being taken from an in vitro embryo that has never been planted into a uterus. It's like a petri dish baby, I guess you could kind of say. And those types of stem cells, they're still being researched, but those typically help eye diseases, particularly macular degeneration. And another type of stem cell is adult stem cells, and those can be found in parts of a developed adult. And I know personally, when I had my wisdom teeth taken out, I was given the option to keep the teeth and the root of the teeth and have it put away, because God forbid I would need stem cells one day, that they could actually use my own cells and help me with whatever I would need. And another type of stem cell is the perinatal stem cell, and those are actually found in the amniotic fluid, and that's typically taken from the mother during pregnancy. It doesn't harm the baby yet. They're not really sure. It's still being researched. So I thought that was really interesting to learn that you could take that. But it's so interesting because it helps, it could help further our medical information of what we know. And stem cells are very controversial, but they can be so helpful. There are so many babies that are born with, heart defects or liver defects or something. And, it's really important that we have the ability to help them so that they can grow up and they could have the same opportunities that we do. And so cord blood can be obtained from babies after delivery, and it doesn't harm the mother, it doesn't harm the baby, but the cord blood can be put into a private or a public blood bank, and the best stem cells are actually in the cord blood. And so those stem cells could be used, for research purposes, or God forbid if one of those kids would ever need it one day to help regenerate cells. And so as I looked back on all this information that I learned, I was wondering, what would have happened if, the parents of that little girl who needed a bone marrow transplant would have chosen a year ago to keep her cord blood. There's a possibility that her own cells could have made her bone marrow. And so I think that it's really important for us to understand that stem cells are really important, and it's really worthwhile for us to research them because they're really advancing our medical knowledge, and it's really helpful to us as humans as we progress.